All right, good morning, everybody. I think a few more people might trickle in while we're doing the introductions, which is totally fine. I just want to say hello. I am Sasha Howell from Off Madison Ave. We are the longtime agency partner to the Arizona Office of Tourism. Welcome to the new approach to creating compelling video content, which you put in parens in a pandemic world. I'm super excited to introduce our speaker for today's session. Please meet Anna. She is a digital marketing expert who was born and raised in Arizona. She still lives here, so she's one of us. And in case you are wondering and trying to figure out how to pronounce that last name, it is Harak, and she does rock. She rocks, Harak. Anna works at Convince and Convert. So you may have heard of them. They are a digital marketing strategy consultancy that's led by Jay Baer. He is the New York Times bestseller and a renowned speaker, and he has often been a part of GCOT conferences in the past. When Anna's not developing these super smart digital strategies for clients, you will find her hunkering down at home, really just to help stop the spread of COVID right now. But before that, you may have seen her skate in a roller derby league under her alter ego, Lady Macbeth. But before we get rolling, just a couple of housekeeping items for today. If you have questions, please use, during the session, please use that Q&A feature on the bottom bar of your screen. I'll be trying to kind of keep everything together. We will answer them at the end as best we can. I'll probably theme them up so we try to make sure we get everybody's questions answered. So just feel free to pop them in that chat feature, and I will make sure we address them at the end. And so without further ado, in about 6 minutes after 9, I will hand this over to Anna to get the presentation started.
Ah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Sasha. And good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I am so very excited to talk to you all today. I do wish that we were in person. Obviously, because of COVID, we've had to move virtual, but that's okay, because what is more appropriate for a video content talk than doing it via video conferencing? So it's rather appropriate for today. As I mentioned, though, I really do wish we were in person. We know that nothing can really replace those in-person experiences, but video conferencing will have to do. And for now, it's okay. It's not perfect, but it's okay, because we are living in some strange times. I, for one, never thought that when that clock struck midnight on January 1st, 2020, that this is how 2020 would go. And I think we are all in that same bucket. I didn't think that I would ever actually live to see a pandemic in my lifetime, but here we are. And we are doing the best that we can. And things are a little crazy, things are weird, and things are tough right now. But I don't actually have to tell you that, because one of the industries that has been hit the absolute hardest in all of this is travel and tourism. And travel and tourism is so vital to our state. And because of that impact on travel and tourism, we've seen this ripple effect across our businesses, across our state, and across our people. In fact, it seems like in just the blink of an eye, things are completely different today. Some of our most beloved attractions and sites have had to shut down or partially shut down, like the Grand Canyon. Some have had to shut down, they've been able to reopen, but then decided to shut down again, like the Phoenix Zoo. It's a little different today. Also, in-person conferences such as this are virtual now. We know that COVID-19 has taken away that in-person experience that we all know and love, and we really want. And of course, going back to our travel and tourism numbers, we know that they've gone pretty askew. Without all of those visitors coming in, we can see exactly the hit that we're taking month over month and year over year. When it comes to travel and tourism, especially for Arizona, it kind of feels like overnight, everything just stopped. Except it really hasn't. Even with quarantine and stay-at-home shelter taking in effect, the truth is travel and tourism has really never stopped being part of our lives. It's still something that we want to do. It's something that we hope to get back to doing one day. It's something that we're actively researching how to do safer today. It's just that now things look a little bit different. In the age of COVID-19, we've really had to go virtual, and we're doing that exactly today. But even if you take a look at the numbers, all the way from January to now, Google actually just reported that search interest in virtual keywords are up over 500%. And that does include interest in virtual ways to travel. And we've seen our own Arizona businesses go virtual. With stay-at-home orders in effect, we've had to connect with people in new and different ways like we never have before. And we've gone virtual to do so. Right at the beginning of quarantine, and really when COVID-19 was hitting our state, we saw a lot happening online. For example, Dos Cabezas and Callahan Vineyards really partnered together to do this amazing digital wine research summer session. This was a series of sessions that they did for a couple of months where you could actually pre-order the wine. They would ship it to your house. And then you would actually hop on a Zoom call on a Friday, very fun happy hour time, and you would drink the wine together with other attendees. You would talk about the wine, you would talk about regions and varietals and winemaking, and you would get to explore this entirely new aspect of wine and winemaking that maybe we didn't even have before when we were in person. So it wasn't like going down to the tasting rooms, but we were able to bring that tasting room experience to our living rooms. Of course, others have gotten on board too, like ASU Gamage. They started doing Facebook live sessions. They started doing a ton of video during this time, lots of webcasts, lots of live streams. You can see here that they have lunchtime talks with different people. They have master classes, and they're really embracing the arts, but in a much more digital virtual form. And then of course, going all the way up to Northern Arizona, Lowell Observatory has gone online as well. They do these weekly series, Cosmic Coffee, and they're really fun. It's just a couple of guys sitting down and talking about all these different aspects of space and astronomy. And this one is actually really fun. It's the Symphonic Sounds of Space, where they actually kind of brought the symphonic sounds of space to life with the symphony. So very, very fun. So we're seeing businesses adapt in really unique, amazing ways. So there's a lot of opportunity here for us. So the funny thing is that we've seen businesses adapt, right? Stay-at-home orders, people can't come to our businesses, we've had to adapt. But as consumers, our behavior has actually changed quite a bit too, and I'm sure everybody has realized this over the course of the last few months. In fact, this was actually brought to life with a recent infographic from Global Web Index, where they actually studied the media consumption patterns of different generations once lockdown went into effect. So starting in about March, they really started to analyze where people were consuming media. And the results are quite surprising, but probably not totally what you wouldn't expect. So starting off with Gen Z, we can start to see here exactly where those patterns are. So you can see that spike all the way to the left, those online videos, they really are consuming most of their content via online videos. You can also see that spike at the very bottom as well with online TV and streaming, and then of course a little bit of online press, and you can even start to see some live streams pop in there on the bottom left as well. So huge shift all the way into online videos. That's primarily where Gen Z is getting their information and where they're consuming media today. If we compare that with millennials, we start to see millennials are consuming even more, and even more video specifically. You can see that spike with online video is just as high as it is with Gen Z, but you can also see just how much live streams have come into play as well on that bottom left quadrant there, 30% live streams. Online TV and streaming is still a massive part of millennial media consumption. You can see a little bit of broadcast TV creeping in there, but a lot of online press as well. So we start to see just how much digital video is starting to come into effect with different generations. Moving forward, we also have, of course, Gen X. Gen X. We have them consuming a ton of online video as well. A little bit more broadcast TV here, but still a ton of live streams and a lot of online TV and streaming. The only generation where this starts to shift and shape and really look a lot different is, of course, with boomers. We are seeing them really lean in towards broadcast TV, but you can still see they are consuming online videos, they are looking at online TV and streaming, and they're really starting to embrace even more digital video content. But really, you can see those first 3 generations, so much digital video content. And so while COVID is definitely not what any of us want right now, we are seeing this shift in behavior. We're also seeing our ability as businesses to adapt to this new environment. And we're starting to go virtual, and we're starting to connect in ways that we haven't before. And video is just going to be even more and more important as we continue, because COVID-19 isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So the good news, though, is that video is the next best thing for travel and tourism. Again, it's not going to replace our in-person experiences, but we can augment them, and we can still make a connection, and we can still provide experiences that help us connect with different audiences, because this is information that they're looking for. As we saw from those infographics, they're ready to consume our digital video. And so it really is the next best thing. The good news is that everyone does love and want video. We already saw from the infographic how much people are consuming, but there's also benefits in it for us to create it. In a recent survey, they polled marketers about the creation of video, and 88% of them said that video gives them a positive return on investment. So everything that they put into video, 88% of them said that they actually got a positive return back. That's huge. 88% is not an insignificant number. Video sometimes takes a lot of time to produce. We put a lot of effort into it, but knowing that we have a high likelihood of getting that back, that's really huge. And it's another incentive to create all of that digital video. Flipping over to the consumer side of things, when people were polled, 84% said that they've been convinced to buy a product or service after watching a brand's video. So people are actually looking to branded video. They want to hear from us. They like to see videos from us. It's how they can interact and engage with us. And it's not, again, an in-person experience, but it's something that's tangible for them to watch, to consume, and to engage with. So 84% bought a product or service after watching a brand's video. Sticking with the consumer trend, of course, we have 86% actually said that they want to see more brand video in 2020. Just as a side note, this number has increased year over year, and it's going to continue to keep increasing, especially with COVID-19 and the fact that our in-person experiences are so limited these days. But even before COVID-19, this number was continuing to rise. So everybody really does want, and they absolutely love video content. Video content is here to stay. So even though we've had to shut down, we've had to really limit our in-person experiences, that doesn't mean that we have to shut down. Instead, whatever you do, don't stop communicating. Don't shut down. Just because we have to take those in-person experiences away for a little bit doesn't mean that we should stop communicating. Instead, what we want to do is communicate differently. And the way that we can do that is by taking a new approach to creating compelling video content. And that is exactly what we are going to talk about today. We are actually going to talk about 4 different aspects of creating video content today, specifically compelling video content, especially in times of COVID-19. So these are things that you will be able to take away and use today. So those 4 components that we're going to talk about today, first is finding your why. The second is expanding your definition of video. We have a very narrowly defined viewpoint of video, and we're going to expand that today. The third is working with what you've got, because there's a lot of material that we have that we can definitely take advantage of. And then, of course, the fourth is getting help from others. So we are going to take a deep dive into all of these today. So let's dig in. First things first, finding your why. When we talk about video, we have a tendency to jump straight to creativity. And we oftentimes think that creative videos equal successful videos, right? We focus a lot just on creativity in the creative process. And creativity is absolutely a part of creating video, but it's a little bit different than what you might think. In fact, when we talk about creativity, we also kind of have this tendency to think that creativity happens by luck, or it just happens out of thin air. Like we are just sitting at our desks one day and we get this great, brilliant idea for video, and we have this spark of inspiration. We go make the video, and that equals success. Or maybe we think that we're just more naturally right-brained, so we're going to create this video. It's going to be creative. It's going to be amazing. Success. Or maybe it's just that creative people should be left to create video content, right? Like if we work with numbers and data and maybe we're more on the strategy side, we shouldn't actually go create that because we're not creative people. I can tell you with absolute certainty that if we take this approach and leave it to luck and chance, and we just go create video, I'll tell you what will happen. Nothing. At least nothing good. That's because you can't create something from nothing. And if you do happen to create something from nothing, what you typically end up getting are the same old messages again and again and again. Now, these are valuable messages that we obviously want to communicate, but what happens is it turns into a sea of same, and our video just blends into the background. There's really nothing there to engage with or have people look to that's different. In fact, we all experienced this firsthand when COVID-19 first really hit, and we seemingly got the exact same message from every single brand. It's like they had one single COVID-19 template, and the logo was just swapped out on each one. And that's not the fault of any of these companies. Nobody knew what to say at that time. But that's exactly why we're talking about this today. That's exactly why finding our why is so important. Just remember that when it comes to video, different is better than better. We don't want to do the same old messages. We want to stand out. We want people to see our video, and we really want people, we want to give people a reason to engage with it. If you do not start with your why, you will end up creating content and video content that is a waste of time, money, and resources. And this happens all the time. But we can prevent this by finding our why. But these are things that are definitely in short supply these days, and we want to make sure to maximize them as much as possible whenever possible. So in order to not make our video a waste of time, money, or resources, we need to figure out why we are creating video in the first place. In order to do that, what we really want to do is make our why very utility-based. Now, if you're not familiar with the concept of utility, there's actually a book on it, Jay wrote it, but it's the concept that marketing is actually wanted by consumers. It's something that we want and we look to. Utility is about help, not hype. And so really what we want to make sure we do with our why and the reason for creating video is make sure that it is utility based. We want to make sure that our reason for creating video benefits our audiences too, and it's not just about us. Some really great examples of utility-based whys could be something like visually show how we're keeping everyone safe during the pandemic, right? Showing our cleaning practices, showing how we're wearing masks when people come in, show that we're limiting the size of people in our businesses, really showing, not just telling what we're doing to help keep people safe. Another great utility-based why is providing customers with a virtual experience, exactly like that digital wine research session from Jessica Basis and Callahan, right? Bringing that in-person session and making it virtual. Or even letting audiences know we'll be back and ready to welcome them back when the time is right. Even just really making video for anticipatory messages is a great utility-based why. On the flip side, just so we have something to compare, not utility-based reasons for creating video might look something like driving more sales, increasing leads, simply adding video into the marketing mix because we feel like we have to have it, or just sending users to a lead form to get their information. While these are things we want to accomplish, I don't want to discount metrics within this discussion today. If we start creating video from this perspective, it's going to become readily apparent that we have created video from this perspective. And when we create content simply for these reasons, when we create video content specifically for these reasons, it's going to sound like an ad, it's going to read like a brochure, and it's going to feel like an infomercial. And that isn't going to do us or our audiences any favors. A really, really fantastic example of someone who has their why down and is very, very utility-based is actually Visit California. And before we jump into that, I just want to do a caveat that really you should only create video when you know your why. If you sit down and you figure that out first, your video will be much, much more successful. It will be easier to create. You'll have better ideas and it'll come to life so much easier and it'll connect so much better. So do not move past this step until you know your why. As I was mentioning before, Visit California is somebody that we actually do a lot of work with at Convince and Convert. And they recently created a series of ads. We didn't actually create this, they did, but they had these amazing, amazing videos. And I want to watch it first before we jump into the why. So simple, yet so effective, really emotional, even just within that short 15-second clip. I was actually able to talk to Lynn Carpenter, the Vice President of Marketing for Visit California, about these ads and sort of why they created them and how they came to be. And this is part of a bigger campaign, by the way. It's called See You Soon, and they have different areas, that exact same setup that you saw on the beach. They do that over the Golden Gate Bridge. They go into the Redwoods. They have different coves on the Central Coast, but it's the exact same concept every time, where it's beautiful scenery, stock video, and then some text overlaid, and the See You Soon messaging. So I asked her why they created these, and she said, you know, these were really created at a time when we didn't know what was going to happen, and we still wanted to extend an invitation for the anticipation of future travel. So they really wanted to inspire audiences, but they also didn't really know what was going to happen, but they knew that they wanted to welcome people back when the time was right. They also really wanted to be considerate to multiple different audiences. They knew that with COVID-19 and travel shutting down or travel being open in different parts of the country, that the level of comfort with travel is all over the board right now. So even if they are opening back up, which we know that they have run into a couple of snags lately, when they were opening back up, they knew that people weren't going to come flooding back. They knew that people were going to be a little bit conservative in some instances, while others were going to travel right away. So they really wanted to speak to everybody, but they also wanted to speak to everybody in a very considerate way. They absolutely didn't want to appear tone deaf. They didn't want to appear insensitive. And they also didn't want to be irresponsible and just drive a flood of tourism back into the state. They really wanted to be considerate. So they had their why locked in before they ever even decided to go concept. And you can actually see how that comes to life within those very simple yet very, very effective ads. All right. So once we have our why, and remember, we definitely do not want to move forward to the next steps unless we have our why, we want to expand our definition of video. So when we think about video, we have this tendency to kind of envision video sets like these, right? Where we have amazing, amazing production crews, tons of cameras, crazy action shots, amazing, amazing in the moment videography, right? We have these very skilled, very adept people that we're working with that do this for a living. And these are beautiful. These are amazing. There is definitely a time and a place for this type of video, but unfortunately, because of COVID, we can't always get that today, right? We know we have to reduce our crew. Maybe we can't even come together just yet. So what we need to realize is there are actually several different types of video that we can create. So rather than just thinking about one specific type of video, there's so many different types of video that we can actually work with. A couple of examples are personal video examples. This looks like anything from a vlog to an interview and Q&A to success stories, documentaries, behind the scenes. These are incredibly powerful, especially with COVID-19 and just seeing people's faces and getting to connect on a different level. This is something that actually Chris Bianco does quite a bit. This is a snapshot of one of his videos. It was just checking in. He had a personal story to tell. This was just loose and ad hoc on IGTV on Instagram, and it was a really, really great, fun watch. So he has a great way of speaking to people through video, and it's just a very personal vlog style. But one of my absolute favorites that I want us all to take a look at was actually recently created for the Heard Museum. And it was actually from artist Stephen Yazzie. And he has an exhibition that is being shown there. But for Father's Day, he actually sat down with his girls for an interview. And it's just one of the most adorable things I've ever seen, but also goes to show just how powerful personal video can be.
Our Navo host just silly.
Sure, that one was really silly. Yeah, we could be funny. Just listen to yourself right now.
Okay. Alright, can you tell us a dad joke? Like the win with Will Ferrell and stuff?
Like a Will Ferrell joke?
Mm-hmm. Just a dad joke.
A good dad. Here's a good dad joke. How do you make a Kleenex dance?
You put Dad. That's too easy. You put a boogie in it.
Ah!
Yeah, no, that was way too easy. Oh, during COVID-19, what has made you laugh?
What has made me laugh is
Me?
Are these sweet little moments with you guys.
I am next to
Playing in the yard, being goofy at the house, trying to get through the long day, and
sucks.
and just being silly with you guys.
No! Okay, what have you done anything those new doing stand up?
I've learned how to cook a few new dishes.
Like leek soup?
Like leek soup. My new claim to fame. If it asks for 2 cloves of garlic, put in 5.
Oh my god. Can you tell us about your artwork in the exhibit?
I'm in an exhibition at the Heard Museum, a new exhibition called Larger Than Memory. And one of the paintings that's in the exhibition is one that I created called Nature Doesn't Give a About You. But it's sure nice to look at. It's a diptych. It's a painting of me and a coyote, and there's an image of me outside on a rock in a place that Wyatt doesn't want me to tell you about, and a coyote who's sitting inside on a chair, like many of my other paintings, looking at the viewer.
Wait, are you jealous of him? If you're in the painting, were you jealous that you
Am I
weren't
jealous
the
of
same?
the coyote?
Yeah.
Yeah. He is sitting in a nicer spot than I am.
Yeah.
Unless
Hard rock.
I mean, a nice rock is a rock's not a bad place to sit.
Maybe late.
But it's a painting I really enjoyed creating. I haven't created a piece like that in quite a while, and doing self-portrait work is always revealing in the process and always telling in so many ways. So there you go.
Thank you, Joyce. Okay. Dad, guess what?
Chicken butt or what?
That is all the time we have. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
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 See you later.
All right, we gotta go into our cars. Bye. We're gonna go into our cars. We're going back home.
You guys are home. Where are you going?
Bye.
You gotta go back to school.
Super, super cute, adorable video. So super personal though too. You could see that it is just the artist with his daughters. It's a simple 2-camera setup. very great interview style. I'm sure there was some editing to that. It looked like it was a really fun shoot though, but you can see just how effective that is. And they absolutely still were able to promote the exhibition and the artwork and still talk about it, but in very fun ways. And this also tied into Father's Day really, really well. So really, really effective on the personal video side. Moving on into different types of content. We, of course, have informational video examples. These do not have to be boring. These, on the contrary, can be very entertaining and very fun. But video examples for information include everything from webinars like we're doing today, virtual events, tutorials, explainers, demos, FAQs, reviews. There's so much informational video content that we can provide. And this is really, really utility-based content. This is information that people are actually seeking and information that people actually really want from us. So the more that we can create of it, even the better it is. And again, it doesn't have to be boring. Sasha mentioned in my bio that I actually skate with the Arizona Derby Dames, and we're actually doing an informational webinar. It's actually tomorrow night, but where we bring one of our best skaters on, Al Annihilatia, and she's going to take everybody through a bout, a pre-recorded bout, and talk everybody through the strategy and what's happening and play-by-play. And so webinars don't have to be boring. They can be very entertaining, but they can still be incredibly informational and very, very, very fun. Moving into different types of video examples, of course, entertainment. These are things like animations, animated GIFs, which are some of my favorites, even everything from teaser trailers, tag and challenge videos. These are insanely, insanely popular on TikTok right now. Even comedy skits and videos are really effective right now too. Everybody always needs a bit of levity, even in some of the toughest times. Now, animated GIFs I mentioned are one of my favorites, and they are absolutely incredibly effective. They are still video. We don't necessarily tend to see them that way, but Postino actually does an amazing job with their GIFs. They have these little interactive pieces. They have little tiny cinemagraphs, and they're really effective. They go with a story. They tell a story. And so really, we don't have to think of animated GIFs as the typical ones that we share in Slack, or maybe that we send to our friends, or the reaction GIFs, but we can actually create animated GIFs, and we can create them really, really easily and tell a very fun, short, powerful story. And then, of course, we have social video examples. So this is definitely much more medium, but there's a lot of opportunity here. So do not neglect the power of video with your social presences. So of course, we have Instagram stories and Facebook stories. We have, of course, regular posts that we can do as videos, TikToks as well. TikTok has absolutely exploded, a primary use case for video. Twitter video, live streams. There is so much that we can do with our social platforms and video. It is just an amazing opportunity to engage. And that really is just the start. That isn't even all of the types of video that we can create, or even how we can expand our definition of video. That's just really the start. But once you realize just how much there is to create, you will realize just how much there is to create in a good way. Now, I do want to say again, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, that there is a time and place for slick, polished, professional video. I am by no means today advocating that we get rid of this at all. There are professionals who do their job incredibly well, and there's always a place for very slick, polished, professional video. It's just that right now, that's a lot harder to create than it was before. So definitely want to acknowledge that is something that you should definitely still continue to plan for, but potentially when COVID-19 has eased up a little and we can get back together and create video like we used to. In the meantime, it's time to get a little bit scrappy. And scrappy is a good thing. There's a lot of tools that we have on hand that can help us create video. Keynote and PowerPoint can actually help you create some animated GIFs. You can create some motion with some graphics and then actually save it as an animated GIF. Of course, there is always Zoom. We know and love Zoom. I don't think there isn't a single person out there who probably isn't on a Zoom call every single day now within COVID-19. There's lightweight resources like Canva, which is do-it-yourself, or Lightboard, which is a lower cost alternative to professional services. And there's even things like subscriptions to Envato Elements, where they have a lot of templates, or one-time pay per template for creative markets. So there's a lot of different opportunities out there. And of course, we can always consult with those videographers that we used to work with. But again, we just got to get a little bit scrappy for the time being. All right. So now that we know our why, We've expanded our definition of what video is and what it can look like. Now it's time to actually start creating. And that means that we have to work with what we've got. When we talk about video creation, we have this tendency to jump straight to new video, right? Everybody loves new video. I love to create new video. Everybody loves to watch new video, but that's not always realistic. That doesn't always work with our budget. That also doesn't always work with our timeline and our planning. And especially now, you probably have so much more video content than you even realize. And we really need to leverage what we have. And you might not even think of some things as video content, but when we leverage what we have, we can really repurpose and remix everything to create a new video. And just for some examples, again, this isn't even a complete list. When we start to repurpose existing content, even if it's not video content in movie form, we can create video from it. So for example, if you have photos, you can do a beautiful animated slideshow. There's existing video that you have, you can chop it up, remix it, add a different voiceover onto it. You can take stock footage. If you have podcasts, you can actually take that audio, pull it out, and do a video wavegram where you actually see the voice, the audio wave as someone's talking. That is absolutely a type of video. Of course, we all have webinars, demos, training videos, customer testimonials. These are all things that we likely have on hand already that we can absolutely take and put into video form. So we don't always have to start from new. We can take what we already have. The See You Soon campaign that we watched earlier from Visit California, this was all repurposed content for the most part. All of that aerial footage was existing stock, and they just did creative concepting time and they added some sound on top of it, and then they put some animations over it. But all of that drone video footage, all of that aerial footage was existing, and that's how they did it for all of their videos. The thing to note also about this is that this was one of the cheapest video campaigns that they have ever produced, but it's also one of the most effective as well. So just because we reuse and repurpose content and video content does not mean that we won't see the same results. So very, very effective with just using what they had. Another really great example of repurposing video actually comes from Visit Portugal. Back in February, they had plans to come out with this huge, beautiful campaign. I mean, these are beautiful cinematic shots with professional videographers and amazing scenic views. I mean, this was one of the best videos I had ever seen shot professionally. Unfortunately, they produced this in February. Things went real sideways real fast. And so instead of scrapping that whole campaign, they recut and they re-edited it to have a COVID-19 message. So let's take a look.
It's time to stop. It's time to look out for each other in the distance. Time to stare humanity in the eyes. To take a break for the world. It's time to stop. Time to make a pause so we can play again. To think of everyone and meet no one. To reset, recenter, switch off, to move on. Time to change our little world. To calibrate the path of mankind. It's time to stop. We are meant to connect and we are stronger together. But separated, we are today more united than ever. And for now, our main strength is to be apart. It's time to stop. Nature, landscapes, beaches, and monuments aren't going anywhere. They will still be there waiting for a better time to be lived. And we must do the same for a while. It's time to stop. The perfect time not to visit anything. Sometimes to rise is to stand still. It's time to stop. Stop and think of ourselves. Think of everyone else too. It's time to stop and refocus as a whole for all. It's time to understand and respect our times. Respect one another. The faster we stop, the sooner we will bond again. It's time to dream of those amazing days to come. For when those days arrive, we will say again.
So again, existing footage, they had this amazing, beautiful campaign planned at the beginning of 2020. Things didn't go the way that they had planned, and so they recut that footage. We're very transparent about that narrator being recorded on a smartphone, and they were able to create something that is just still simply beautiful and so very powerful. So repurposing existing content is the way to go. Once we get some of that video content created, we really want to make sure we also atomize it. Now, atomization is a process where we take one really big video, such as a webinar like this, and we splice it up into different little smaller pieces. It's really a way to maximize all of that great video content that we're creating. So we make this large investment up front. We can make sure that we have lots of smaller little things come out of that huge investment. Now, we typically go by the 1 to 8 rule, which is by for every big piece of video created, you want to aim to have about 8 smaller pieces of video that come out of it. But I have to say, don't worry about getting all 8. What you just want to do is make sure that as you're planning big video, or you're shooting big video, or you're creating big video, that you aim to have those smaller pieces that spin off of it so that you can maximize that investment. And just to help you visualize exactly what this could look like, let's take this webinar as an example. So if I were to take this webinar when it was all said and done, this would be the one big piece of content. I could also spin it off into several smaller pieces of content. For example, I could cut that up and add a little bit different of an intro and create a teaser trailer. Or I could take the top 5 takeaways and splice them up and then put them on Instagram stories. Or I could even take some of the highlights and put it into a larger speaker reel from some of my other talks that I've done. So it's really about maximizing that initial investment and thinking about how we can take that big video and use it differently for several smaller pieces of video. So content atomization is really maximizing our initial investment. And then last but not least, probably the one thing that I think terrifies most people, which is getting really comfortable in front of the camera. A lot of us are in this position now where as business owners, we have to step in front of the camera and we are afraid to kind of show our flaws and we're afraid we're going to mess up, but don't ever be afraid of being human. People do business with people. And as we saw, even with the Father's Day video with the Herd Museum, there were bumps and flaws in there that made it more endearing and made it actually more fun to watch because the girls were interviewing him and obviously they weren't professional interviewers, but that's what made it so cute and fun. So don't ever be afraid of being human. What you definitely do want to do though is get the right lighting. Start with a simple basic selfie ring. That's really all it takes is just some forward facing lighting. You also want to make sure you get the right equipment. 90% of the time for the things that we want to shoot, our smartphones are actually perfect. They are wonderful. They are beautiful. The cameras are insanely, insanely powerful. If you do that though, just make sure you get a camera, a tripod, because that will help stabilize your video and make your videos instantly look so much better. And you will feel so much more comfortable on camera, not having to manage your smartphone. You also want to make sure you frame your shot. So make sure that the background isn't too crazy cluttered. Make sure that there isn't a lot of distraction in the background. We've all been on Zoom calls where we can see pretty much everything happening in the background. There is that infamous video of that poor man who was giving an interview with the BBC and his kid crawls into the shot and then someone comes in and pulls the kid out. So definitely want to make sure you frame your shot. Want to make sure that that doesn't happen. But even if it does, again, don't be afraid to be human. And then of course you want to actually record your video. Video doesn't happen on the first take. Be prepared to do lots and lots of rehearsals. Be prepared to do multiple different takes. I cannot tell you how many times I have had my cat or my dog enter the shot because I didn't set up and record it properly enough. So do some basic legwork and you will feel so much more comfortable on camera, but definitely get comfortable being on camera. Somebody who has actually done an amazing job of transitioning all of their employees into camera people is actually the Phoenix Zoo. They do these beautiful, wonderful cameo videos now where for a small donation, they will send you a video. And we actually did one for my niece and nephew, and we got Fernando the sloth.
Hi Joseph and Quinn, meet Fernando. He loves to sleep nearly 20 hours a day and does everything upside down. Fernando and all of us at the Phoenix Zoo wanted to say hello, and we hope you both have a wonderful day. Aunt Anna and Uncle Forrest miss you both and cannot wait until they can see you again.
I mean, how adorable is that? But really, the video is amazing in of itself. Fernando is lit really, really well. You can hear the trainer, the zookeeper in the background. She obviously has a script, but it doesn't sound like she's reading it too much. Obviously, there were some parts in there that she had to read because we had a special request. But overall, this was really well shot. And Fernando is the star of the show. So just remember, if Fernando the sloth can do it, you can do it too. So get comfortable on camera, because this is how we are communicating for the foreseeable future. All right. So last and final piece here is getting help from others. Obviously, we are running our businesses. We are trying to communicate virtually. We're trying to get all this up and running, and it doesn't hurt to get a little bit of help. And especially now is the time to have others help you tell your story. We really sometimes have this tendency to want to control that message, but there are others out there that can tell our own story more convincingly and sometimes more authentically, because they are true believers in us, they are fans, they are customers, and they want to help support us. And this comes in the form of user-generated content. Now, user-generated content, also called UGC a lot, is a source of content that is created by consumers. And video UGC is hugely powerful. It is massively powerful. In fact, when we actually create user-generated content, 9.8 times more powerful than influencer content. So if we actually have people create content for us via influencers, and we actually pay influencers, if people just naturally create content, like a customer testimonial, that is 9.8 times more powerful than if we were to go find social media influencers to tell our story for us. In addition, 79% of audiences say that that user-generated content impacts their purchasing decisions. So they see somebody else telling our story, and that actually makes them want to go purchase our content, or go purchase our products or purchase our services. It's really impactful. And then finally, 60% of those polled felt that user-generated content feels more authentic because it actually is more authentic. We're getting real people to tell our story and get on camera and be advocates for us. And a lot of people are willing to just do this because they do want to help us. They do want to support us. Now, a couple of tips when you are doing user-generated content is always ask before you use it. A lot of times we see people tagging our businesses on social media, or we see that they've taken a photo from inside our business, or they have a photo that we want to use. Always make sure you ask before you use it. Actually reach out, get their permission, and make sure that they have said yes to you repurposing their content for your own purposes. Also, if you're going to ask for user-generated content, be specific. Go out and say, we want to hear from you. Send us your best stories, or shoot a quick video and tell us, how much this person means to you at our business. But be super specific, and you will get much better results with user-generated content. Also, you want to give recognition where it's due. Always credit the creator, especially when it comes to user-generated content. Tag them, give them recognition, and tell them how much you appreciate them contributing. Now, to give you an example of what exactly user-generated content looks like, we actually have a piece here for you that is about a minute long, and it is really fantastic.
Just here to spread the message that together we rise. We will get through this difficult time together.
you're all staying safe. And soon, we'll all rise together.
Such a fantastic, fantastic use of user-generated content. Again, you can see there that they had photos in there and they animated them into a slideshow. They combined it with video clips from people who just simply said, "Together we rise," sending well wishes. Beautiful, beautiful piece of user-generated content. And it doesn't have to be super slick and super polished because it is so genuine and it is so authentic and it is still just as effective. So definitely lean into user-generated content when possible. All right, so that is the new approach to creating compelling video content in 4 steps. Just as a recap, you want to find your why. Remember to never move past that step unless you have your why and make it utility-based. Be sure to expand your definition of video. Start small and then grow bigger. You can always start with some animated GIFs. You can start with repurposing existing content when you move into step 3 with working with what you've got. And then of course, finally, you can lean into others and have others help tell your story for you. So that is it, everybody. Thank you so much. Just a reminder to mask up. And I think we have time for questions now.
We do. Anna, thank you so much for this. It was, there were some really great examples in here. We had a handful of questions that came up, and I think a couple of them are themed together. One of them is probably a quick answer. Do you think people are more forgiving of rougher videos that are shot on an iPhone or, you know, a cell phone these days?
Yes, absolutely. So because everybody has their phones now, everybody's taking video constantly. Social video has helped really make rougher video more acceptable. TikTok, if you look, a lot of those are just sort of hand spliced together. Rougher video is by far more acceptable. But the one thing I will say is that using a lavalier mic or a handheld microphone or even headphones and the right lighting will go so far in making that video good to great.
Awesome, thanks. Somebody else asked, and I think this is a great question, what if the video assets that we have right now don't show people social distancing or they're not wearing masks? Like, can we still use those? Are they still relevant?
So I think it depends on the message that you're pairing with it. As we saw with Visit Portugal, they definitely had people that were together, but they made sure to reinforce that this was from a time before. The message was very much like, when the time is right, we will be together again. So just make sure that you are using that video appropriately and you have maybe even some disclaimers about that content.
Great. Another question was, do you recommend creating specific videos for each social channel or doing one that you might be able to use like on Facebook and Instagram? Like how, you know, especially if we're doing these kind of on the fly, even though still planned out, but a little, you know, a little less produced than before. Are you thinking about those, like breaking them up by channel?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different approaches to this. Obviously, unique per channel is always the best case scenario, but sometimes that's not always possible. So in that instance, I would say just make sure that the video isn't just being blanket reposted. There's different sizes, different formats, different lengths for each social channel. So obviously, Instagram story length and size versus even an Instagram post length and size is going to be totally different. So just make sure you are optimizing it per channel and then try to stagger how you post it if you are reposting the same video in multiple different places.
Okay, great, thank you. One more question that came up is, it sounds kind of daunting to start with a big video and then break it down. Could you do something the opposite and maybe say like, oh, I think I want to do a series of, you know, 5-10 second thank you messages or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually call that reverse atomization. And if you have tiny little snippets of videos, you can absolutely weave them together to make one big video. So if you have exactly, Sasha, like you had mentioned, like 5 or 10 different customer testimonials on video, you can weave them together to create a bigger thank you video.
Okay. I think we might have time for, okay, a couple more questions. Should we keep reminding people about social distancing and mask wearing in videos, or does that just get really redundant?
That is a really, really good question. And I think it's dependent upon the case. I would absolutely show You don't always have to tell, but you can show. So if you are shooting a video, you know, you can absolutely just have your mask on, or if you're shooting with somebody else, have your masks on, show that social distance. You don't always have to say it in the same way. There are different ways to show and tell that message. But if it is something that is important and something that is relevant to your brand, then absolutely continue to reinforce that message.
Great. Kind of two questions really quickly in the last minute or so around user-generated content. First, can you just run back through how you would, how you get the rights or approval from people to use that UGC? And then also, have you found a difference in tolerance for video, like viewer tolerance for video, if it's UGC versus like if it's an influencer or something that's maybe a little bit more salesy? Say.
Sure. So in terms of the process of finding UGC, if somebody has already created that content and you found it and you found that video and you love it, just reach out and ask them if you can use it. Ask them directly, get their permission, and then you are able to repost it by crediting them. However, if you're looking to create video content like that last example that we saw, you would put out a request on your channels via email, however you choose to communicate with the audiences that you're seeking UGC from, and ask them specifically. So almost give them a video assignment, but you want to make sure that that video assignment is actually pretty lightweight. Anything really complex, people aren't really going to spend a lot of time on. Those were tiny little snippets, very inspirational messages. So people were probably happy to participate because it required no real level of effort. And in terms of tolerance for video, the more authentic, the better, whether it's user-generated content, whether it's with influencer video, user-generated video, influencer video, branded video. Authenticity wins all day, every day. So if you have an amazing mega influencer creating video content for you, but it sounds and feels like a sales pitch, it's probably not going to be nearly as effective than if you just had a couple of simple customer thank you testimonials on video.
Okay, great. I think that actually is our time for the day, or for the morning, for the session, I should say. I just want to say thank you again, Anna, for this great presentation, and thank you to the Arizona Office of Tourism for hosting this and letting us do a video session via video. So yes. Thanks all, and if there are more questions, there will be a way to reach out. Anna's information is on the screen here, and this will be available to watch again at your leisure after GCOT is over. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.